Here are two sets of words that describe people. The first set, carpenter, teacher, scientist, auto mechanic, administrative assistant. Then we have a second set, mom, dad, son, daughter, best friend. And these two sets of names describe people, don't they? But they're not the same. The first set talks about what a certain person does. For example, a teacher is someone that teaches his or her students. An auto mechanic is someone that repairs cars. But that second set talks about how that person is related to us. As a father, as a mother, as a best friend with whom we have confidence. The father or mother who has raised us, has given us life, and taught us the most important things in our lives. So it talks about that relationship. These two sets of names, these two sets of words are important as we understand today's scriptures. Jesus is praying with his disciples. And we must remember that everything that Jesus said and did was, in a sense, to form his disciples, to help them understand who he was and what his mission is. And so he turns to them and says, well, what's the word out there in the street? Who do people say that I am? And this is not a test like we might be taking in school or something, but rather to set them up for the next question. Who do you say that I am? Then we hear the famous confession of Peter. You are the Christ. You are the Messiah. You are the one that will set your people free. But immediately, Peter is rebuked. How's that for passing a test, huh? You get the right answer and all of a sudden you're told you got it all wrong. And, the poor disciples are trying to make sense of this. Jesus is trying to teach them about his mission. That his mission is integrally connected to who he is. That if he is indeed the Messiah, then that means that the Messiah is not this king that's going to bring glory to the nations. It's not going to make Israel first amongst the nations again. It's not about that kind of glory, but rather something else, something more profound. That God's kingdom will reign from Israel. That the Messiah is coming to establish his kingdom. And this is not a worldly kingdom, but a kingdom where God's love and peace and justice will reign. They did not understand that. But back to the original point is what they also needed to understand as they described who Jesus was the Messiah, was that sense of relationship to him. It wasn't enough to keep the Messiah or Jesus at some arm length away. Because what Jesus was trying to tell them, that the mission that I am to undergo, which necessarily entails suffering, which means taking up this horrible instrument of execution, the cross, that taking that up is something that they themselves must do. And the only way that they will be able to accept this call as disciples, the only way that they will be faithful to that call is when they themselves understand that relationship. To understand Jesus not in some factual idea about him, which is important, but without that relational element, they will never be able to give themselves to Christ, to his kingdom, in the way that Christ is giving himself to us and to them. It necessarily entails that relationship. And understanding the one that has gone to no lengths, to no lengths, but to the lengths of his love and the breadth and depth of that love, to understand that great gift, then allows us to do the same. To do the same, to give our lives to that mission, to give our lives, more importantly, to that one. So back to those examples. The world cannot live without teachers, without auto mechanics, without carpenters. We need them for all the good things that they do. But yet, we do not necessarily have that type of intimate relationship to them. We do not give our lives to our auto mechanic. They do great things for us, things that are necessary. But we are willing to lay down our lives for our best friend, for our father, for our mother, for our son, for our daughter, those with whom we have intimate relationships. And so we cannot understand who Jesus is. We cannot understand his mission and who he calls us to be. As St. Paul was describing in putting on Christ, we also become those co-heirs. We also inherit this great kingdom, this great dignity that he has established for us. It doesn't come because of our merits or anything that we ourselves have done, but it becomes out of that love of God for us. And so in that relationship, in that connection that we have to Christ, who is our Messiah, who is a great prophet, who is a king, then we ourselves are able to live in that mission. Jesus rebuked his disciples because they did not understand. They thought that they could follow this Messiah without giving of themselves. They thought that they didn't have to deny themselves. They weren't sure that they would have to completely live this life of conversion, to deny that selfishness, to deny whatever hatred, to deny whatever is of vengeance and violence in their lives, to forego all of that, to take up that cross. We too face that same calling. We too need to renounce our own selfishness, our self-centeredness, our own desire to push away those things that call of us to make a sacrifice for one another, for a world, and for Christ. And we can do those things. We can deny ourselves. We can take up our cross. We can live in that kingdom when we answer today who Christ is for us, and how those words are always about relationship. But we need to deepen that relationship. We need in this Eucharist to encounter that one who has given his life for us. But how do we connect to that one every day of our lives? In our prayer, in our reading and meditating upon the Word of God, in the sacrifices that we make for those in love. Who do you say I am? That is the question put to us. And in answering that question allows us to live in that mission, to be his faithful disciples that are willing to deny ourselves, to take up our cross daily and follow him.